Welcome to the Flutter CICD course over here, and if you want to learn some of the more advanced concept in the Flutter CICD, make sure to check out my course in my website where we will cover all of the topic related to the Flutter CICD with the code magic as well as the GitHub action. So let's go and see what are the topics that we will be covering over here. Let's scroll down. The first thing that we are going to cover is the continuous integration over here, and we will also cover the continuous delivery. Similarly, we will have the continuous deployment over here, and we'll also make use of the code magic YAML file, and we'll also cover the server code push, and then we also have the GitHub action over here. So whole bunch of the topics that we are going to cover with the Flutter CI/CD over here, and I hope you will enjoy this particular course as well as the topics that we have covered over here. I hope to see you. Till then, have a great day. Hello there and welcome back, and let us continue over here. And I had given you a homework over here just to go and create the YAML file or the GitHub action for your iOS build over here, and I hope you have done it. But if not, let's just go and continue and let's see how we can do that one over here. So the same thing over here, what we need to do is we need to go to the workflow. I'll create a new separate file, or you can also add to the existing file, but let's try to separate for the learning purpose into a two different file. And once you're comfortable, you can just merge that one to just a single file, or it also depends on how your team work together, like whether they prefer a single file just to build in just a single workflow, or you prefer to have a separate workflow for each of those. There is a pros and the cons for both of those, and you should discuss it with your team how you want to proceed further with your CI/CD. But let's try to create a two different file for the learning purpose over here, and it's much more cleaner to see and understand how things work over here. I'll just give a name as the iOS over here, and then this is for the dev as well, and then the YAML itself. And I'll just copy the everything that I have over here. So let me just go and copy everything from here, and I just need to remove all of those because we don't want to go through whole of the process again and explaining each of these steps. And this will be of the iOS build, the dev version, and I'm going to use the same branch which is of the main branch as well. And here we can't make use of the Ubuntu, right, or the Windows over here. We have to make use of the Mac to make use of the iOS build over here, and that's the ready pen, right? So you can't use any other OS to build your iOS app. You should always make use of the MSC OS, Mac OS. Mac OS latest will provide you the instance of the latest version of the Mac OS itself. And then the next step will be of the checkout, because you need to check out to that particular branch. So you need to give a permission to this particular branch in order to run the build on that particular branch. Otherwise, this particular workflow doesn't have access to this particular the repo or the branch itself, right? And we don't need a Java SDK to build the iOS app, right? So I can remove that one, obviously. So let's just go and remove that, and I need to set up the base URL. That's correct, because we need that particular file. Next is I need to go and set up the Flutter version. Depending on your requirement, as I mentioned previously, make sure to go and set that correct version. And then after the Flutter version is set up, we need to go and install the Flutter dependencies, right? And once we have that particular Flutter dependencies, what we need to do is we need to go to our iOS folder and make sure that we need to go and install all of the dependencies. And what I basically would like to do over here is I want to exclude this basically file, because sometimes it get conflicted, because the dependency in your local machine, and then the if you are using the latest version of the Mac OS over here, it doesn't match, right? So there may be a bit slight different in the dependency, and your build will fail. and so you need to make sure so how you want to proceed with this particular pod file, because it is the file that keeps the local version of your like if you are using SQLite or you are using whichever plugins, that it keeps the local version over here, right? So that version that you're actually using. So sometimes it may conflict and with the latest version of the macOS that you're using. Otherwise you have to use a very specific version that you are actually using, but that's not a good idea because your team may have a different version of the macOS, right? So you can't expect everybody in your team to have the same version of the macOS. So basically I prefer to use the latest version and exclude this particular pod file.the-log, but that's obviously depending on your team requirement and how you want to proceed. But for now, let's just try to keep it and see if it works, or let's see if it gives us some error. And the next is what we do is we will just go and set the name over here, and name we want to go and install the iOS dependencies over here, right? And then I need to go and run the command, and then I guess I'll just go and make use of the multi-line over here. So if you want to make use of the multi-line, so you need to provide this particular sign from the keyboard. I'm not sure actually what's that called, but we need to provide that one, otherwise you can't run the multi-line command. So first thing that I need to do is I need to navigate to the iOS folder over here, and the next thing is that I need to go and run the pod install, and that's the rep repo, that's the update over here. So this should go and run the pod install and also update the repository for our pod itself. And I can just go and cd and navigate back to the root of our directory over here. So that should be pretty cool over here. So it should install all of our dependencies, and we don't have any signing certificate for now because we are going to build for our dev version over here. So we are not going to do the code signing and all of the stuff that is on the later stage once you want to go and build for the production version or for your app store, right? But for now we are just doing it for the development, so we don't have to configure all of the certificates and code signing over here. And once we have that, so I need to go and build the iOS over here, right? And then I will just go and say the Flutter build. I can just go and say the iOS, or I can just go and say the IPA over here, and this will be of the obviously for the debug version as well, and then the build name and then the build version. So what I can do is actually, let's see if this command is working locally over here. So we need to try that out and see if that the build command is actually working over here. And as you can see over here, it went to for the code signing itself, and we got some error, right? So what I can add over here is that's a no, and then the cod code sig and sign over here to our command. And let me try to go and copy this one and try to add it over here, and let's try to run this particular command one more time. And finally you can see it was successful, so it skipped the code signing steps for us, and it also skips the IPA build. So we can just go and say the iOS over here, and what I can do is I'll just copy this particular command over here, and let me add it to the readme file over here. So it should be of the that's the build the iOS debug over here, debug over here, right? And let's add the bus over here, bsh bus, and then paste that one, and then let's just go and close that one over here. So that should be pretty good over here. And now what I can do is I can just go and comment out this one. I don't want to go and run the to build over there, so I'll just go and say the dash one over here, and so it doesn't trigger the build on for the Android build over here. So I just want to go and trigger that one, right, on this particular workflow, which is of the iOS build over here. So let's try to go and get the add over here. Make sure you are at the root of the project over here. Gets you mmit commit -m, and that will be of the added the iOS workflow for the GitHub action over here. Git push this one, and that's a trigger a new build for us. So let's just go back to our repo over here and go to the actions over here, and now you should see our new the workflow is triggered for our the iOS over here. So the checkout, setting up the Flutter, it should take around 30 seconds to complete the Flutter setup over here. That's pretty fast over here, right? And let's wait for this one to complete. And here you go. So you can see a green check mark, which means the build was successful, and you can see that it has successfully built for us without the IPA file. So we are just using for the debug build, but that's perfectly fine. So it was able to build it, and now we have a two workflow. One is for the iOS and one is for the so let me just go back, sorry for that. And we should have the two workflows over here. One is for the Android and one is for the iOS, and that is for the development version over here. So it's pretty cool, right? Easy peasy over here. So we have added a two file for our workflow, which is of this Android and then the iOS over here, and both of those are working perfectly fine. So just a simple setup over here, everything is working pretty cool. So that's all for this particular lesson, and we will meet up again in the next one. Till then, have a great day.